this is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Ask my family doctor just what I had. I said, Doctor, doctor, Mr. MD, doctor. Now can you tell me what's ailing me, doctor?
Good Friday evening, everyone. It is Dr. Potts and Political Architect Show. It's Dwight and Don here again. Jeff is on travels, and Chris Tomlinson is preparing for some stuff for tomorrow. So he sends his regrets for not being able to do the show. But we've got a special Dr. Politics Wednesday night show where we're going to do our year-end award show. It will be awesome. It's going to be from 7 to 8:15, 8:30-ish. Because we've got a lot of awards and a lot of winners and losers to share those with. So it's been a busy week this week, you know.
Let me just say, Dwight, Chris is a busy guy.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He was at the, I forgot all about the state party last week. I tried to. On Saturday, I'm like, I know I got something to do today. I can't think of what it is,
Dwight missed a party.
Yeah. And last night, the Montgomery County YRs had their party at Rock Bottom Brewery. It was a nice.
Based on the pictures, that looked like it was pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of, I only stayed for a brief time because I didn't want, it was the young Republican, not the middle-aged or old Republican.
That's right. So,
unfortunately, there was like a handful of old people that were there who don't get the hint that, hey, maybe we should leave and let the young people be young people, They kind of have to hang around like being chaperones, but hey.
Look, if depending upon who the people are, it's the older people, if they feel like they want to see some of the younger people, though the YRs are not the youngest group of the Republicans either, but
no, they're not.
But still, there's something that, some reminiscing that can go on, and
oh yeah,
and all these other kinds of things, and it never stops the YRs from soliciting the older folks. Say, come on out, sponsor, give us some money, right? Because they're not going to get much money out of the YRs themselves.
Well, that's a misconception. I think, YRs, there are professional YRs, and they should, and I think they should be recruiting, successful young Republicans within their ranks,
Yeah, look, I agree with you. Fine, there must be some young Republicans that have made it in the tech world or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. If you remember the old,
easily afford to do things.
Yeah.
With unlike the CRs or a college kid age, you could say, yeah, they don't really have money, but the YRs, they're supposed to be the type that should have some kind of career or something like that. Mm-hmm. They should have a little bit of extra disposable income theoretically. Mm-hmm. So why shouldn't they be sponsoring and doing this and not relying on the old folks to help fund them, right?
Yep. And here's the thing, the way I look at it is, I remember back in the old days when you had Dana Crawley and a bunch of people like Bob Clark. That was a substantial YR operation in Montgomery County.
Well, that is I gave him a few bucks for last night's thing, even though I wasn't going to go. But mm-hmm. I think that's the first time I have given to a YR, anything, mm-hmm. In over 20 years.
Yeah, I skipped the whole YR stuff because we did CRs and the leadership and the conservative route and campaign, so I kind of skipped over the YRs whole thing, over the back in my days,
Well, we had a guy in Montgomery County. I think his name was Aaron Shostek, and so I knew him a little bit. So I was willing to join the YRs or whatever. Mm-hmm. I was probably at the upper end of that, probably getting close to, graduating, from that official ranks and everything like that. But mm-hmm. That was, I can say it was probably before the age before I turned 40 was the last time I gave any money.
Yeah, I think Joe was a member of the YRs. Joe, who I'm talking about. He used to live in your neighborhood. Now he lives in Virginia. Gabe Joseph, is that the name? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Well, we had a guy who lived down Ron Josephson.
Ron Josephson, that's it.
Yeah, he lives out in Virginia and he works for the EPA.
Oh wow. He's got to be loving the EPA these days.
Yeah, it's like a lot of other these kind of government employees who've been there for a long time, and their job is not a political appointee type of job, right? But he can,
Mhm.
he could tell you stories about what happens at EPA, and things like that. So
Oh yeah.
it doesn't matter. He's worked there for probably close to 2 decades, I bet you
Mhm.
by now, and so he's seen a lot of different things going on there. But he keeps plowing on. He'll have a nice little retirement when he's said and done. But
Mhm.
he's still a good, strong Jewish conservative. So, shout out to Ron Josephson.
And as Craig Yoakum asked, the YR party was rocking. I believe it went to the wee hours of the morning.
Rocking at the rock bottom, is that what it was?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Perfect.
By the way, I think we can reopen those streets. They used COVID to shut down so many streets in downtown Bethesda. Around, over where you got the other restaurants on the other side of Bethesda. You've got, and I've seen people just park in front of the. I was like, this is not a parking spot. This used to be an intersection. It's not a parking lot. People just park there. I see that happening over on Norfolk where Rock Bottom is. It's like, let's give the street back to the cars. The street, for people to drive through. It's like
Traffic in Bethesda can be bad enough as it is, especially if you're trying, in the restaurant row area and all of those types of things, right? It's like the last thing we need now that we are theoretically, back to closer to normal than we have been since the pandemic, is that you shut off those streets. It's like, okay, that was fine when you had like zero traffic, but if traffic picks up, it's like you got to reopen this stuff. This liberal mentality of like, oh well, we want all this, this walking space and all this thing for. It's like, hello, people still need to get around, and you're preventing a lot of other things, but you're only shifting the traffic to other areas anyway.
Yeah, in Old Georgetown Road, they got rid of a car lane inside the Beltway to add a bike lane. I mean, it was not enough room before, and now, it's like they go, oh, there's so little traffic. Yes, because everyone's at home on the lockdown. Now that lockdown has ended, oh, look, a lot of cars. Why is there so much traffic? It's like, come on, traffic. They did that on University Boulevard as well. Over in Wheaton, where they have more, basically where they actually have more. They have a lot of traffic there, and they shut down a lane there for bikes, and they're doing, I think, over in Up County near Damascus, they have red lines for bus lane, designated bus lanes that they don't want cars.
I just saw that. Yeah, I mean
that is insane. Why don't they paint them blue? Why do they paint them red? But then again, red socialism. Yeah, that makes sense a little bit too.
I mean, I didn't even think that we've recovered quite enough that people, have been riding the buses like they were. The mass transit is, the ridership has been way down.
I think mass transit is. Nobody wants to use mass transit after all these years. Like we've been so many months without having to use it, and now it's like, why would anybody want to use it?
Well, I mean, I think because we're going to have an overhang for a while of COVID fears. There are going to be a lot of people who don't want to be in mass transit situations where you're now, closed in. I mean, I'm just trying to, think about all the times of metro trains, and at its peak, during rush hour. I mean, you're packed to the gills.
It was like a sardine can.
There isn't anybody who wants to see that situation anymore.
Yeah, and now Metro is not only is it they don't even have enough trains to run. I mean, the trains aren't even running on time. I mean, they took out the 7,000 series they found had then was it the 8,000 was the first one. Now they found the 7,000s have the same wheel problem.
Yeah, and they're trying to return those to service, but yeah, it's like I avoid the Metro like the plague these days too. It's like there's nothing that entices me to go anywhere right now.
I mean, I don't go downtown because parking sucks, and I don't want to take Metro to go downtown. There's a couple of places I'd love to go downtown, but I just don't want to go because of the Metro.
Yeah.
If I go, I'm going to go and I'm going to park somewhere and walk how far I have to get to where I want to get to, but I'm not going to park in one of those overpriced parking garages. And DC's doing the same thing. They started this trend of getting rid of car lanes or getting rid of parking lanes to put in bike lanes. And
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I was over in I guess it's Northeast Washington. I don't know what the heck. Anyway, we were doing some church thing. We were going over to a couple of apartments, and we're like, okay, so there's no street parking per se because it's all scooped up on a Saturday. My wife found a parking garage around the corner, but I noticed when I was bringing this equipment back out. I was waiting for her to come back with the car. I stepped out off the curb for a second, and I'm like, I almost got run over by a bike.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wait a minute, that's a bike lane. And then there's no official parking in front of the apartment building. There's some space, and those they have a bunch of center lanes, and FedEx trucks and other things park in those to make deliveries. It's just like this. I don't know. I mean, DC's already bad enough as it is in a lot of ways, but I'm kind of watching all these things on a Saturday. It's like people don't have places to park. I mean, if you got deliveries, this is rough.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the old days. I used to be able to find parking by the old Free Congress, on 2nd Street,
That's right.
And I could park there, walk to Capitol Hill, walk over to the Senate side, walk to the RNC. And now the old Free Congress buildings are gone. They got condos there. Then the parking lot I used to use now has, I think SEC is there or some government agencies.
Yeah, the SEC was right around the corner. Was right by Union Station, right below it.
Yep. Yeah, that was the parking lot I would use because I like surface lots,
But you're right though. Along what was it? Was it Second Street or whatever?
Yeah, Second Street. You can find a lot of parking there.
You can find parking if you were, but I mean, but they did have that one area where they hadn't. I'm sure. I guess you've probably been around more than I have. I'm sure that area, besides where Free Congress was, has all been developed. So there isn't anything like that anymore. You can't do that.
Yeah, and what do you call? I think I remember back when I was on Free Congress, there was also a parking lot behind the Free Congress building where you could park. When people would come for the YREC lunches, that's the only time you'd run out of parking because everybody would be there for the YREC lunch at the Kriebel Institute. The old Kriebel Institute building is where they do the lunch, or the room, I guess it was. And then you had even over by the old AIM, Upper Northwest, there was back, you park in those neighborhoods there, and it wasn't an issue,
Things have changed a lot.
Yeah, the AIM building isn't even there anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
and that was the old Channel 7 too. Before that.
Yeah. I mean, there was the Saul companies owned it. They knew that turning this into a condo type of development, apartments, whatever, was going to be much more profitable for them long term than doing the small that they had over there. So completely revamped over there. It's amazing to see. When I've driven by there a few times, it's like, okay, this whole area has changed a lot. All right. I guess we reminisced a little bit here. I guess we
got some important stuff that happened this week. Yeah.
So let's I mean, I want to spend just a few minutes at least just to acknowledge these tornadoes that ripped through the South a little bit, because they were pretty devastating, a little bit unusual in the sense of coming in December. But they're still kind of counting the number of deaths there. I mean, Kentucky took the biggest hit, but they had that Amazon warehouse in Illinois that took a hit. Some other places as well.
I found it a little funny how they were spinning. They said Amazon said if you leave, it wasn't Amazon, some candle factory. They said if you leave, you're fired. And then
that was a story. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's really verified that or not.
I think the rest of the story is they said no, shelter in place. It's safer for you to stay here. I don't think anybody. They said that about the Amazon warehouse too. They said, and then after it came out, the Amazon said, "No, we want you. You're safer staying here than on the road trying to get home."
Yeah, no, I mean, tornadoes are very dangerous. Even people who did their best to run for shelter, they got affected. I mean, this was a massive tornado that ripped through, particularly Kentucky. I mean, once again with Amazon, Amazon's got a big bullseye on its back there. which is always to me is kind of interesting because you've got Jeff Bezos, who's no conservative, but
Mhm.
the liberals will go after him for employment practices and stuff like that. And then one of the things that comes up as a result of this tornado is the fact that Amazon has a pretty policy with their warehouse workers bring their phones in, right? And so there's no immediate
That is, I
communication.
think, that is like the weirdest thing. Over at Goddard, there's this one building, which is like one of the older buildings, and you get no cell reception. You can bring your cell phone. It's not they don't let you, but you get zero cell service. There's no bar. And it's like and that building they've had raccoons, snakes, other things, because it's right next to the preserve coming in there, and I'm like, wow, that's just crazy that you think you'd have a nicer building there. That building had rotary dial phones on the wall.
Yeah, and that's why
And
I was kind of hoping that Jeff was going to be on tonight because I did want to. I was going to be kind of curious about his opinion with the Amazon policy because on the one hand, I think Amazon's explanation for this is that they want the workers to concentrate on working. Phones are definitely a distraction, but there is that other side of it is that if there's an emergency situation, you don't have your phone by your side.
Mhm,
Your loved ones are not really sure what's going on. They can't really ping you to find out
mhm.
exactly where you are.
Yeah.
So there must be a little bit better way, but Amazon is I mean
Yeah.
they monitor their employees very, very tightly. So it is but I mean Amazon, it's not the NSA. I mean I don't see
Well,
this
let me
as
tell you,
being
it's
a
like
security
one of the
breach.
one of the first quasi government contracts I ever won was with the British Embassy's Ministry of Defense. When I went in there, they took my cell phone in the morning, didn't get it till I got back. I hated that.
MOD. I love that name, MOD, Ministry of Defense.
Yeah, we have an MOD at NASA too. It's Missions Operative Directive, and they're not. They have nothing. They do more of the stuff with, and you think it's kind of cool when you find their missions is actually weather and buoys and stuff like that. It's more they work a lot hand in hand with NOAA.
All right. Hey,
Um,
well, since you're talking about this, I do want to ask you this question in kind of as a general thing. So we've got kind of a little mini space race of sort going on here.
yeah.
Bezos and Musk, kind of competing to get up there, and
Mhm.
Bezos is making a big splash with his. They reach the edge of space. They go up in a 10-minute
Yes.
flight, and then they come back, and they get some celebrities and stuff like that. I mean, how do you feel about it, and do you have any contact with anybody via Goddard or anything like that? Is there any chatter from anybody about
Mhm.
is I mean, in some ways, I see this as good for space exploration overall because people get
Mhm.
excited about space again. On the other hand, it's a couple of billionaires,
Mhm.
especially with Bezos. Definitely more about the glamour. I mean, Musk is an odd individual,
Musk is actually see. Here's the thing. We
but he's
like
got space. His things are much better.
Musk. Actually, is one. They actually go into space.
Right.
The Bezos team, I want to say, if it wasn't the Bezos team, they would probably say, they the high untrespassed sanctity of space, trespassed sanctity of space, put out my hands and touch the face of God. That is what they are doing. That's about it. While the Elon Musk folks, they're actually orbiting the Earth and going into space. None of this, this is basically a ride at Disney World. Jeff Bezos. They're going to have Amazon World, and this is going to be one of the rides they'll have there. You get to go up in space and come down.
So if you were offered a free ride on the Bezos's space thing, would you take it?
No,
Okay.
I'd go on Elon Musk. So I have more faith in the technology Elon Musk is using and to be able to come back down safely. I mean,
I mean, I kind of figure with Bezos though. I mean, it's the risk got to be pretty low. I mean, it's a 10-minute deal,
that's
and
true.
then you're back. I mean, it's like
Chuck
how much
Yeager.
can go wrong in 10
Yeah.
minutes, under this modern circumstance. So
I mean, Chuck Yeager did do pretty much the same thing with he was when he actually went up to and then he parachuted back down or something like that in the early days of space exploration and travel. He was legend, many millennials may not know Chuck Yeager. Before he pushed AC Delco parts, he was a test pilot.
I love how you throw those things in. It's like, yeah, I do remember that, but really vaguely.
Being able to remember back to 2 is so much fun.
There is so much information crammed into your head, Dwight. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like there's a YouTube doctor named Dr. Mike. He does these funny medical memes review. A friend of mine, Dr. Stevens, sent me that. He goes, "Hey, you should watch this." I go, "Why are you sending it to me? I'm not a doctor," but they are pretty funny. But he's a millennial. He was born the year I graduated from high school. Okay, but he makes references to shows like Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days and various older shows. He critiques the medical wisdoms of some of the. He critiques ER and The Good Doctor and bunch of the Internist and a bunch of other various medical dramas. He did one on MASH, which I thought was funny.
That's something else. All right. Hey, so let's talk a little bit about our current COVID situation. So now we have this. We talked a little bit last week because
the sniffle variant,
the Omicron, and
yes.
So now we're seeing more cases pop up, which we expected to see more cases pop up. Dr. Fauci is kind of getting ominous about this whole thing. But right now, I mean, what we're seeing is pro sports, schools. PG County now is going to all virtual for now.
Look at the Redskins. They've got no quarterback.
Huh?
Redskins have no quarterback.
Yeah, but we'll see how this goes. I mean, the NFL, they're in a very tight situation because they're up to week 15 of their season out of a 18 week season. I guess it's 17 games, so 18 weeks. So they don't have a lot of wiggle room with all of this. Yeah. And so therefore, they can't do a lot about rescheduling. So the Redskin game, or the Washington football team, if you want to be very politically correct, their game against the Eagles has been rescheduled to Tuesday.
Oh, they rescheduled.
They've got like 21 players on the COVID protocol list, and Cleveland Browns have no quarterback. Their backup quarterback tested positive, and so I think their game has been postponed until like Monday. Hoping that I think the NFL is hoping that some of these players will now test negative, and then their protocols will say you're good to go again. I don't know. I mean, I understand the safety issue about all this, but sometimes I wonder whether or not they've kind of just gone a little bit bonkers on the COVID testing to say, well, you test like this, and here's the protocol. A few of the players, during the past year have actually come down with COVID, but I think those are the ones that have been unvaccinated, and the other ones either asymptomatic or mild symptoms at best. I just don't see in pro sports as many of these athletes having been vaccinated that this is such a big issue that they have to get to this situation where they're postponing games and they're doing things. It's definitely not fair to the teams.
See, I don't like the postponing of games, and I'll tell you why. I think you were getting there is it's not fair to teams that it's kind of like, it's kind of like illegal immigration. Let me draw this analogy. Okay.
All right, I can't wait for this.
Okay. You are applying to become a permanent resident of America. So you fill out the paperwork, you wait your time, you stand in line, you do all the medical, whatever the stuff you need to do to come to America and get an alien registration card, AKA a green card for those folks, as Rush Limbaugh saying, Yorlinda. Was it Yorlinda or Yorlinda? Was it Yorlinda? There was some town in California near Sacramento. He offered them that he'd move there if they changed to Limbaugh.
Yeah, it may have been Yorba Linda. I mean, what was that thing? What was that? Oh yeah, he always used to mention that thing over and over and over again, didn't he?
Yeah, and then there was Brian Wilson. He used to refer to for you people in Dundalk. Yeah, but okay, and then you have so the guy that does the paperwork, does everything right. That's the right immigrant. Okay, he's played by the rules. He gets to come to America. Okay, and then you got these people that jump the line, cut into America. Those are the NFL. That is that is the teams that played by the rules, took all the precautions and basically, made contingency plans and stuff like that. Now, why do they need to delay a game? I mean, should the Redskins start with a 15-yard penalty at the beginning of the game for delay of game because they delayed the game from Sunday to Tuesday? I think so. That'd be fun. I would say penalize them. Start with the Redskins at -7. Start them at -7, but that would not be fair considering they'd probably.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, this it creates a little bit of a conundrum for the NFL in this situation though too, because that when you move the games, the schedule is set that Monday night game, you have a Monday night game, and then you'll have a Sunday game. You have a Thursday game, but then you won't play till the following Sunday, and so there's certain things that are protocols in place. So if the Redskins play on Tuesday, their next scheduled game is still probably, I think, on the Sunday. So now they've got 2 fewer days to prepare for the next game, which is not good for them. The Eagles will also be under that same penalty. But
not to be that guy, but if the Redskins had 2 extra weeks to prepare for a game, I don't think the results would be any different.
Look, they're a so-so team. Okay, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But that that NFC East division is winnable for them.
Yes, it is.
It would have been much better if they had beaten the Cowboys last week. But they're still within reach of doing something.
And, well, here's the thing with the Cowboys. If you remember the year, the Cowboys went 1-17 or 1-16.
1-15.
The only win they had was against the Redskins. Remember the year the Redskins only had 1 or 2 wins? It was against the Cowboys. So
yeah, I mean, and playing the Cowboys is obviously even after all these years is still kind of a one of the big rivalry games.
Yeah, although it kind of sounds a little different, Washington football.
I don't get as excited about it because the Cowboys tend to be better than the Redskins. The two teams are not really equal like they were before. Could have been going either way and stuff like that. And the Cowboys used to drive me crazy. I think it was Clint Longley came in during one of the Thanksgiving games, and there was a backup comes back and he rallies the Cowboys and they beat the Redskins, and you're like, who was this guy? Nobody knew who this guy was.
But remember the Redskins played the Giants on a Monday night game. Joe Theismann goes down, and then Jay Schrader comes out of nowhere and wins. And I want to say they may have won the rest of the games of the season. However, by that point they kind of.
Boy, I forgot all about Schrader, but yeah.
And then Doug Williams.
That Theismann game will always go. I mean, that ended his career. I mean, that was one of the most gruesome. That was the most gruesome injury, just about until we had Alex Smith injury, which was also extremely gruesome and ended his career for the most part. He came back last year, but he just couldn't play.
Also, some would say Joe Theismann should have retired a year earlier. He should not have come back for that. He should have just retired. He came back. He chose.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes players will play a little bit too long, but I don't know. I mean, you look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady is, he's defying logic, and just going, just amazing what he's been able to do at his age. I mean, I mean, when I was a kid, when I was 10 years old, 11 years old, I mean, I was dumbfounded by George Blanda of the Oakland Raiders because he was playing in his 40s. But he was basically the kicker and a backup quarterback. So he wasn't somebody who was having to really grind it out, like a running back. He wasn't the regular quarterback. But I mean, he played into his 40s, and back then, in the 50 years ago, that was pretty amazing. Now a lot of athletes tried to play into 40 or older, right? And if they stay in good shape, they can do it.
Yeah.
So it's pro athletes they're in such better shape now than they used to be. The conditioning is so much better than it was 30, 40 years ago. You can do that, and I think the games have changed in a lot of ways where, like with football, they put in so many rule changes that you will not, it's rare to see the kind of injuries and other things that would have happened before that would have knocked people out. They really are trying to protect the players a lot more. So it's interesting, but I don't know. I just kind of, I get
But
a
I
little
think
bit.
the whole thing about them, I guess them having to play on a short week, that is penalty for them. That's their penalty. You get one less day to prepare for the next game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know what their schedule is normally for their workouts, but I think the day after the game is usually a very light to no day, maybe some team meetings, but not necessarily practice. And then
Hmm.
you start ramping up. If they go to Tuesday and do they hit the ground running on Wednesday? They give some players a little bit of a breather, and then start on Thursday, and then they've got a couple of days. And I don't know where their game is, the next Sunday. But if it's an away game, then they've got to also get on a plane and do. I mean, there's just so many ramifications of this. And I mean, the one thing with the NFL is that you've got a 40, what is it? I think a 45-man roster, and you've got a 7-man
Hmm.
taxi squad. So you've got some ready reserve players, but not necessarily in all the positions. I mean, if you got 20 players on COVID protocol, and they don't get cleared by the next game, you cannot replace them fast enough. I mean,
Hmm.
even if you take your taxi squad guys and put them out there, you're still coming up short. Then you're scrambling for other players who have not really been playing probably much, and then trying to plug them into the mix, and you're not getting the same level of
Hey,
play.
this keeps
If you,
up. Perhaps Colin Kaepernick might get a call if this keeps up.
yeah, who knows?
I don't know
You
if they're
know,
that. I don't think the NFL is that desperate yet.
but if you're in like the NBA, I mean, the NBA rosters are like 15 guys. You know, 4 or 5 guys go down in the NBA. You're already down a third of
Hmm.
your players. That gets to be pretty rough. In a sport where they really try to manage your minutes and everything like that, puts a lot of pressure on the other players. So right now we're seeing COVID affect pro sports. As I said, we're seeing it affect schools. As University of Maryland, winter commencement has been canceled. I guess they're going virtual,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And we're seeing some
PG
other.
County schools are back to virtual learning too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just think that I understand it to one extent, but I think it's a little bit of an overreaction at this point. I mean, we were expecting a spike of this. I really I want to see what it results in hospitalizations and other things. Testing positive is not equivalent to a hospitalization or worse.
Hmm. And
You
here's
know,
the thing: they're saying how we've got what was it? They were saying 1,500 cases or something of COVID, new cases, or some of that, or they've got 1,500 current cases. We are a state of 1 million plus. Take that, 1,500 isn't a drop in the bucket, you know. And that's why I think these mask mandates are stupid, especially in counties like Montgomery County. I mean, we're I think 82% vaccinated. We are almost at 85%. And from what I understand, Mark Ellick wants to keep the vaccine mandate even get to 85. I mean, the mask mandate, I should say.
yeah, no, right. I mean, you kind of mentioned this, I think, a little bit last week, and what I've seen since then is that they're looking to the CDC and they're thinking like they're expecting to hit 85% maybe in January, and now they're saying we may need to look at a different metric to be the baseline for that. So yeah, they're going to move the goalposts to keep the
Exactly.
mask
And this
mandate.
is all about control, exercising control. This reminds me of back in my days in high school, there was an episode of Oprah where she did, and it was basically take off on some 19, I guess it was in the 50s. It was a black and white movie we saw actually in psychology class where you take one group of people and make them, give them all the power and how subservient people become and so on. And I think that what this has become is this is just an exercise in these little games on what else we force people to wear masks. What else can we make them do? Can we force them then to like right now they're forcing us to wear masks. Then what's next? They're going to say, "Oh, we're going to force you to eat only vegetables or eat broccoli or something." It's like this is all basically a scheme to control people and minds, and unfortunately, we live in urban Montgomery County where we have a lot of sheeple who basically put on a mask and bow down,
I,
to
I
their
mean, I
government
think for this
masters.
Yeah, look, I think for the schools, one potential option, which I have not heard, anything about this, is just that why don't you go ahead and spend some of our tax dollars that go to education, and look at the school buildings, and then go in there and change and upgrade the filtration systems to something that's equivalent to what happens in an airplane,
Yep.
so that you filter the air better. And then the kids, no one would have to really wear a mask at that
Hmm.
point, technically, because you'd be purifying the air. It would be like the best breathing, area that you could get, better than you get
Hmm.
in your own home. Why not? Why not
Yeah.
that? I mean, I would compare property taxes if you're going to do something like that. I mean, go ahead,
I
go
mean,
ahead, go ahead and
mhm.
take some of my federal tax dollars, that are a lot of other garbage, and then give some
I'm buying
grants to
those
some of these
books. Yeah,
property
those
owners and
pornographic
say,
books.
go and take your 12-story building, and
Yeah.
we'll give you and improve the filtration system, so Joe Biden and company don't have to try to impose these unenforceable, private mask mandates. But what is it? It goes back to your other point. It's control. It's control. You
It
know.
is. Let me tell you. I will speculate, what your dad and folks like Paul Weyrich would say. You know, this is just all basically it's an authoritarian power grab by the left. And that's really what this is. You know, we had our time where we had to tamp down. We did the lockdown. We wore the mask. We were vaccinated, and they say we don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated. Now that we've been vaccinated, you need a booster. We get the booster, you still need to wear that damn mask. Where does it end? It is. I think I think people are getting really close to fed up. I guarantee you this: if President Trump were in the White House right now, we would not have these stupid mask mandates in government buildings, and we'd be looking a lot more normal than we do right now. I mean, I see a lot of cars on the road, but I hear a lot of government folks are still working from home. What is the deal? I should not see this much traffic. If all the government employees and contractors are working from home, why do I see so many cars on the road right now?
Yeah, please explain it to me, because I've driven the Beltway for some other things. And I was like, okay, so this looks like it did in 2019. It's
Yeah,
like, but we keep hearing that people are still working from home, and I'm like, I don't doesn't seem to add up to me very
yeah.
much in that
And
regard.
every time I bring up, hey, when do I get to bring my contractors back? And they go, oh, it's not going to be until maybe July of next year. Then, I mean, this is something they were saying last year, July 2020, and then it became uh, now it's July 2021. I mean 2022. I'm sorry. All these years are blurring together. And then it's going to be. Then they'll say 2024. Oh, we're just never going to bring anyone back. Everyone's going to work from home.
It seems to be getting that way in a lot of ways. So you might actually enjoy this. So we're upstairs right now. We actually have a church activity with a bunch of the women,
Mhm,
and this had been planned for weeks
mhm.
for us to host it. Uh, the thing that kind of surprised me, but I guess I feel a little bit odd at this, is that the email went out to the women in our congregation,
Mhm.
and come on over and everything like this. We're going to have this soup and other stuff going on tonight, and things like this. But you should be wearing a mask unless you're eating. And I'm thinking like, okay, this is my house.
Mhm.
It's my private residence. Why are you telling me I got to wear a mask? But I understand what the overall thing is. It's technically a church activity, and it's on the heels of about a week ago where we had a couple of our teenagers test positive for COVID,
Mhm.
and so that kind of threw everything off. If that hadn't happened last week, I don't think they would have said, please wear masks,
Mhm.
inside, inside. I'm a private residence. It's like, I felt like saying, no, my rule is that you don't have to wear a mask. But then again, I didn't want them to go and cancel the activity over that.
Yep.
I'm like, whatever, basically you do what everybody else tries to do on a plane, eat constantly.
Yes. Yep. By the way, I got to commend the Southwest CEO who questioned the
And
mask.
American Airlines.
Oh, really? Okay. And shame on you, United Airlines CEO. I think Ted Cruz did a fitting job dressing you down.
Well, here's the interesting thing about that, because this is all about mask mandates, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, they question the need for mask mandates. Now, they took a lot of heat for that, but people took them out of context in terms of why. People jump on Twitter, social media. They always jump on these people, without really listening to the whole thing. And what those executives were saying was that, in essence, is that on the airplanes they have just about the best filtration system. The HEPA, you are breathing really good air. And so wearing a mask on an airplane for them makes really no sense when it's like about the safest thing you could do compared to any place else you can go. And yet other people thought, oh, they want to do away with mask mandates. No, they're just saying, like, if the air is like at 97, 98%, pure or whatever, it's really, really highly filtered,
Mm-hmm.
then wearing masks is going to do nothing to stop the spread of the virus because it's not being spread to begin with on the plane.
Yep.
And that's the problem, is that people have these misconceptions. The liberals always talk about, we're going to follow the science, and that we know that that's poppycock on their part.
Oh, they're not following the science. It's like the science of it's voodoo science.
It's all political. It's all, once again, back to your point, it's all control.
Yeah, it's here's the thing. Okay, this goes back to it's basically just it's just a naked power grab by the left. There is nothing more disturbing than what they're doing right now. This is all about it's like, when will this end? I mean, will a Republican House and Senate be able to end the mask mandate? No, they won't, because that comes from the Joe Biden. And speaking of Joe, he says he's running for president in 2024.
Oh, did he say that?
Yeah, and Camilla's office says, "Oh, I don't know what we're doing in 2024."
Look, I mean, I think we may have talked about this before a little bit. The problem is that both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are kind of underwater ratings wise, right? Their popularity, so that neither one of them, is a good bet to do anything for the party. Plus the fact that the Democrats' focus right now is on 2022, right? Congress and the Senate, particularly Congress, because they see that slipping away from them, and potentially another, maybe the Republicans pick up 25 to 40 seats. Who knows exactly? With redistricting, that helps the Republicans as well overall, because they control more of the state legislatures. So the Democrats are you have Democrats in these what have been competitive districts in the past. They're complaining to the DCCC. So it's like, you're not helping us. Your focus on all this stuff is not helping us at all, right? So the Democrat, particularly, I mean, look, we keep hearing January 6th. I mean, there was a story the other day that on January 6th, I mean, Joe Biden is planning, President Biden is planning on having kind of statement or some kind of thing going on. There's like, do we really need to rehash January 6th and try, no, this is a political point, by Joe Biden. Once again, they have spent the last year, even after Trump's been out of office, they're still after Trump. It's like, look, Trump wasn't perfect, but all this January 6th stuff is just a smokescreen at this point in time. The people who caused trouble, look, if you broke the law, send them to jail. Fine, they deserve it. I am not going to defend those people who broke that at all. But this constant harping Donald Trump, trying to make him responsible for all these things, part of that is that they don't want to see him run in 2024 because they know they're in trouble in 2024.
Oh, let me tell you, they know if we run, Bozo the Clown, they're in trouble in 2021. Let me tell you, this is kind of like, I mean, John McCain was a horrible nominee. 2024, if they have Joe Biden, it's going to be like having John McCain on the ticket, and we could have anybody we want. And I think President Trump, if he runs, he wins, and I think it'll probably be like a Trump cruise ticket, most likely, because I think that'd be a very powerful ticket, Florida, Texas,
I just have a hard time believing that Trump could get enough support to run as the nominee again. I think he can exert a lot of influence, as he has been, over the candidates who do run.
That's true.
But I don't know. I mean, I would if he was I would vote for him, but I would do so with far less enthusiasm than I did before. I think it's time for us to move on from him as a candidate. We have plenty of other good people out there that I think. I mean, I think the world, in the current climate, can provide a very strong candidacy, because Harris is really toast. Biden, what's he done? I mean, it's been 11 months of a disaster. This is and they're looking at a route in 2022 in the midterms. That also doesn't help him, set him up very well for 2024.
I understand that Hillary's also waiting in the wings. I still draw breath. I may run.
Yeah.
But speaking of Biden and the many failures, I think Build Back Better is dead on arrival. He only has until the end of the year to get it passed, because next year is an election year. If you're a Democrat in a district that Trump won, are you going to be voting for Build Back Better? Because you vote for Build Back Better, the Republican, if they is going to be running commercials of you having what do you call it? You're going to have this big issue is going to be that you're not going to be able to vote for this. He's not going to have the votes in the House, because there are some marginal Republican districts, that it's not going to be easy to do.
Yeah, look, I mean, here the thing. So the AP or somebody, they were trying to put all the blame for the blockage of this on Manchin, and say it's one guy in the Senate is stopping the whole thing up. But I mean, it's not just Manchin, the Republicans that are against it, and Kristen Sinema is not exactly she's not really in favor of it, but you could probably buy her off a little bit easier than Manchin, I guess. They had the Democrats had hoped, Schumer had hoped to get this passed by Christmas. Now they're saying, okay, they realize that it isn't going to happen, because we're already at December 17th. It's just not going to happen. It will kick into the new year. You just said the thing. We have known for months that the longer this has been delayed, and Biden, and the Democrats knew this as well, Schumer and these guys, that if you started mid-November and then into December, if you didn't show progress and it didn't look like you're going to get it passed, then 2022, you're going to face it's almost impossible to pass something like this, because, as you point out, election, you've got a lot of vulnerable Democrats out there, and the last thing they want to do is get caught with this Build Back Better, or the excessive spending that's going on there, because people have been focusing on, they look at that and they're like, hey, I mean, look, you've got Chuck Schumer and you've got Jen Psaki out there, after the CBO scored it, and the CBO is not a Republican or a Democrat type of vehicle, And
well, it's a gold standard. When the Democrats use it, it's the gold standard. When we use it, it's not.
Right, exactly, right, yeah.
It's fake.
The Democrats love it if it's scored their way, but in this case, because this is such a linchpin, of the Biden administration's plans, so they both, they're calling on and say, well, their scoring is fake because they're not scoring the real program, and you're like, but we don't really have the final bill isn't there, because the Democrats haven't agreed to it. Manchin said, I'm not going to vote for this, not going to vote for that. So the Democrats haven't whittled the plan down, but they have to score. They're scoring what is out there and proposed, and everybody knows, in essence, that the Democrats have done. They play this. All politicians play the same game with the numbers, and they say, well, this program is going to expire in 1 year, and this program is going to expire in 2 or 3 years. But this child, tax care credit and these other things, the SALT tax, things like that, go ahead and you can deduct up to like $1,000 in state and local income tax. They said that's going to last for like 3 or 4 years. That's going to be at least 10 years. That's going to be more permanent again, because there aren't Democrats that are going to come out there and say, oh yeah, we're going to vote we're going to vote and make sure that it's gone in a year, it's gone in 3 years. They're not going to do that. So the CBO knows, they're taking the more long view, saying these things will probably be here for up to 10 years. So you have to include the costs. And when you include the costs, it's a sum game. It's going to add a lot of money to our debt.
And all these Democrats are going to be going back to their districts next year, between the vote for Build Back Better, and they're going to get an earful, especially those folks that are in marginal. Like, you have Wexler in Virginia. You have, what do you call, who's that, the woman? It's the Barbara Comstock seat. Yeah.
Well, there's a Spangenberger.
Yeah, Spangenberger and Wexler. Those are the two in Virginia that are vulnerable. Yeah. And even old Don Beyer may be a little more vulnerable in this. Virginia, I mean, they did vote for Glenn Youngkin. Don Beyer of Don Beyer Volvo fame and failed candidate for governor. Don Beyer is one who might, he may have to go back to hawking Volvos.
Well, that wouldn't be the worst thing for him to do. Some of these guys. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, because we have, we're just under a month away before Youngkin takes office.
Yep.
And then the state legislature and the House, is going to be 52-48 Republican.
Yep.
So Youngkin's got a little something to work with. He still has to face the state Senate, but if you've got the governorship and you've got the House, at least you've got something you can push back on. I mean, you're going to see more Republican-ish measures. And what did Northam do in his budget? I mean, I think Northam
gave a tax cut.
He basically has tipped his hat, and set it up so Northam, so that Youngkin can actually have a potential budget to work with. So yeah, he's got the tax cut, and finally, it looks like there's maybe a chance that the sales tax on food will be finally eliminated in Virginia. Which I don't know how much money it brings in, but the handful of times I've been in Virginia and been at a grocery store or like at a Costco and bought groceries, and I'm like, I really hate paying taxes on groceries. Okay. It like drives me up the wall. Having grown up not paying taxes on groceries is like, I just find taxes on groceries, even at 1.5% extra, is just an affront to me.
For the longest time, even sodas were tax-free in Montgomery County. I think it was in the 80s at some point when they added the tax to sodas.
Yeah, I mean, they finally decided that, I think up to like 99 cents, they weren't going to tax certain things, but then once it was over that, then all kinds of things started to get taxed that weren't taxed before.
Yeah, I know. Now a 20-ounce Coke is almost $3.
Yeah, so it's
that's a 20-ounce Coke. That is a lot of money for some people. It's between getting Coke and a bottle of water is about $3, depending on the bottle of water you buy.
Yeah, and prices aren't going down, right? I mean, we're just, every time we turn around, it just seems something is going up, and it's really putting a lot of pressure on people.
What is it? $3,500 is the rosy number they're throwing around?
Yeah, this was this Horton study that said that they figure that the cost for the average family on consumption is up $3,500 because of the way inflation's gone. I mean, we're seeing numbers on inflation we haven't seen in 40 years. That's most of your lifetime, Dwight. That's 2/3 of my lifetime.
Yeah, that was like exactly.
You were probably were you 10 years old, 9 years old?
9 years old, eight or nine, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, when you're that young, inflation doesn't really matter to you. But as you get to be an adult now, you're like, okay, look, I don't, I say the media elites and these people who aren't covering this or who are sloughing it off. Well, when you're making your 6- and 7-figure high salaries, inflation's not going to mean as much to you. But for the average Joe, the people that the people that Joe Biden is supposed to relate to and he's supposed to defend and help.
Amtrak Joe, all those Amtrak riders with you, Joe, they can't afford to pay $3,500 more a year.
It's you turn around, it's like we're now seeing where inflation is eating away at the paycheck, so that even people getting raises, all these minimum wage increases, as these employers are trying to attract employees.
Yeah, Hobby Lobby says they're going to start paying minimum $18 and change.
Yeah, that's we're seeing that, but they're doing it to try to attract more workers, but even the workers that do take those jobs and work more hours, they're barely running ahead of where they were at the lower wage with lower inflation. Inflation is eating up so much of that extra money that they're barely staying ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So and Joe Biden just doesn't, he can't relate to this at all, right?
No, he can't. I mean, what's Hunter make a month from Burisma?
I don't know what
$50,000, something like that.
That's what it was reportedly to be.
And I don't think $3,500 more is going to hurt him.
He just has to sell another piece. Just sells a piece of art, right?
Uh-huh. Well, that's inflation for you. Before the Biden economy, his painting's worth $5. Now they're worth $75,000. That's inflation hits everyone.
I'll tell you, on the supply chain issue too. I just want to make a quick comment about how, Joe Biden the president supposedly was going to solve the problem by, forcing the ports to stay open 24/7. But there's still more ships now than there were before, because it's not about opening the ports. There's other factors that, in order to get the cargo unloaded and transported out of there, etc., that Biden is completely clueless about. But I just came across this. We are bidding out a prospecting mailing for Accuracy in Academia.
Mm-hmm.
And my go-to printer, who I wanted in the bid process, when he was talking with the person who's soliciting bids, she came back to me today and she says he won't be able to meet the deadline because he can't get the paper through the printing. And one of the weird things that is actually they're having a shortage of are 6x9 envelopes. It's almost impossible. It's about a 6-week delay.
Hey, those are the number 10 envelopes, aren't they?
Envelopes. What the heck?
Those are the number 10s, right? Are those the number 10s?
These are 6x9. So these are like this big.
I got a drawer full of
the kind of thing like when you take an 8.5 piece of paper and fold it in half, and then you mail it, fold in half.
Mm-hmm.
It needs that size envelope.
Yep.
They're scarcer than hen's teeth. 6 weeks or more to be able to get them delivered to you printed.
I might actually have a couple boxes. By the way, this book was delayed 6 months because of the supply chain stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's just unbelievable about how that happens. So we're almost up to 8:00 here, Dwight.
Oh yeah, I know. Final thoughts time. But real quick before we get to final thoughts, I do want to mention a couple of things that happened this week also that kind of may have been overlooked is how last week, it was actually happened last week, but Fox News had a Christmas tree that was burned by an arsonist last week they relit the tree with a new tree. It cost them $500,000 to do it, But the funny thing is the arsonist was across the street when they were relighting the tree the second time. That tells you how bad Nancy Pelosi doesn't understand why, where the crime is all coming from. New York City's bail reform is why that arsonist was out on the street less than 24 hours later.
Well, look at the smash and grabs that have been going on in California, places like that. It's insane.
Well, AOC says that's not happening. It's just a hoax. It's just a hoax. It's a very orchestrated effort by Republicans. It's basically a fake video that the Republicans are constructing.
Talk to the shop owners and the police over there.
Yeah, this is like about some of these. I have little to no sympathy for some of these corporations that are like Target. They embraced BLM. Now they're being targeted. you've got all these woke corporations now. They're kind of being, they signed on the police reform, defund the police nonsense target in Minnesota. They wanted to defund the police. Enjoy Target. This is what a defunded police force looks like. In California, where if you steal, do you think they go in there with a calculator, Don? Okay, is it $989 or $999 before tax or after tax? So they got to factor in the California sales tax in there too when they're stealing. Oh, this TV. Oh, I can't steal this TV. It's 900. Would you mind showing me a cheaper TV that I can walk out the door with? And it's ridiculous, and it's. I mean, is this what you voted for, America? That all you folks that voted for Joe Biden, is this the America you want to live in, where you're afraid to go to the stores because you might be a victim of smash and grab? I mean, I believe Tanger Outlets had some stores there had an issue with smash and grab or mob. I don't know what they call the ones where the whole mob goes in and just clears out stuff. I don't think that's quite smash and grab. Smash and grab is like where they smash the case, but a mob. I don't know. Somebody tell us what those are. What's the difference between a smash and grab and like a mob of 50 kids go into a store and steal a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's kind of a combination of this. I think part of that is it's like a flash mob that's arranged put together in social media. And these people don't know each other. That was one of the things is that it gets through on social media through Snap or something like that. Meet here, and then everybody goes in, and then they run into doors, break, and they run out. So when the police do arrest some of these people, they can't exactly get to everybody because only a handful of people, maybe 3 guys from here and 3 guys from here and 2 guys here and 2 guys. But those different groups don't even know each other. So you get 3 guys, and that may be all you get out of 30 because you can't link the rest of them together. Everybody else was more or less anonymous. It wasn't an organized gang. It was just basically kind of the old flash mob, go in there and rob the store.
Yeah. I remember when flash mobs used to show up at the FAO Schwartz store and just worship the dinosaur and go away. Or they'd come into a mall and start dancing and then go away. But we're at final thoughts. Don, final thought?
Yeah,
thoughts?
Yeah, my final thought really is going to be a little more somber, but I think at least I want to pay tribute to this young man. So we had Accuracy in Media back in the 90s. I can't exactly remember what year it was, but it was also the year that Colin Powell came out with his book. But anyway, this young man, when I knew him as a teenager, and he interned with me, and he had all the characteristics of a conservative kind of thing like that, and that made a lot of sense, and do a lot of different things. Pete LaBarbera had him go to the Lambda Rising bookstore in DC once in a while, which made him extremely nervous. But that was, Peter needed people who weren't Peter to go to the gay bookstore.
Oh, yes. I remember those.
Everybody knew Peter. So yeah, I still remember Chris being rather nervous about that whole thing. But I remember one of the things that Chris said to me back then was that he wanted to run for Congress. And this kid was like 19, 20 years old at the time. He went off.
If it's when Colin Powell's book, by the way, if it was when his book came out, that would have been 1995.
1995. Okay, so yeah, because I know Chris wound up in the line to sign books because my wife was ironing a shirt for me in the morning. She was watching CNN, and they were doing some tape of a book signing with Colin Powell, and she's like, "Hey, isn't that Chris?" And I'm like, I had no idea he liked Colin Powell. But anyway, Chris was a good young man. Somewhere along the line, he became basically a progressive leftist. Okay, I don't exactly understand what happened, but that was fine. I mean, look, you have to you believe what you believe, those beliefs. Okay, he was real, and he ran for Congress more than once. Lost every race that he had on that regard. He had moved back to this area in the past couple of years and has been spent all his career as teaching. He would argue the leftist cause, and I understand from other people who knew, who were stayed in closest contact with him, that sometimes he would block people and unblock people, and some people would say, I was a friend, but it was a complicated relationship with him. But Chris passed away suddenly the other day. I was pretty shocked. He was 45 years old. He apparently was some complications from surgery, and so he left behind a wife and 3 teenagers. So, but despite my political differences with Chris over the last couple of decades or whatever, I still my thoughts and my prayers go out to his family. I think that I'm still a better person for having known Chris. These are the things where you can agree to disagree. He wasn't for me. With me, we never got into any heated argument about anything. We just knew that we were, political allies. But I respected him for someone who would forcefully argue his point. And I think that civility is something that we lack. I think at least my conversations and my relationship with him was civil, and a lot of that stuff doesn't happen today in today's world. We see that within our own Republican Party, where we need a little more civility too. So, Chris, wherever you are, my thoughts and prayers are to your family, and we will be reunited there someday in the future.
And I want to say, I did not know Chris, so he may have been there before I had gotten there, because I started like January of '96, so he may have left prior to that.
Yeah, he would have left in the summer. He would, if it was '95 when Powell's book came out. He was going to go. He was scheduled to go back to school in the fall.
Yeah, there's funny. There's people I went to school with that came out as being conservative. They were conservatives and they became liberals, and the funniest ones were they became hardcore Republicans.
Yeah, look, it happens both ways. I mean, conservative kids sometimes turn liberal, and liberal kids sometimes turn conservative when they hear things, right? My wife was saying the other day that the actor was a John Rhys Davies. He was a big, like lefty, liberal in England, right? And he went out to protest Maggie Thatcher, but while he was trying to heckle her, she put, her response to the hecklers was so impressive to him that he listened and he became a Thatcher fan.
That's good. That's great. I mean, when you hear stuff like that, and obviously we'll be off next Friday because next Friday is Christmas Eve. So we will not be on, but we will be on Wednesday next week, or our special award show. I don't know if you've voted in the ballot yet, Don. If not, I'll.
No, I gotta go back. I'm gonna have to go, and is it on the club site?
Yeah. Well, no, it's in the newsletter, not on the club site per se, but it's in our newsletter. And I can share the link with you again. That's not a big deal. My final thoughts, is, the 2021 is winding down. We're about to start 2022 in a few weeks. I'm working on my predictions for 2022. Watch out. Snowstorms. We might get some snow this January and February, and really bad rain, in the springtime. Big time, big breaking predictions, bold.
I don't like this prediction, Dwight.
You don't like those predictions? I think I tell you why I think the snow, we're long overdue for a good snow.
Yeah, you always know the other shoes are going to drop at some point in time. But now that I'm over 60, I'm like, am I going to have to start paying somebody to shovel my driveway, because I'm really getting tired of this?
Have you seen those battery-powered snow shovels and snow blowers?
I'm definitely looking at other options for sure.
They've got these that are electric. They say, But here's the thing: what will happen if you buy the snow blower? We won't have any snow.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that stopped me over the years. Is that I thought, if I buy this darn thing, it's not going to snow. Yeah. And then the years that it snows, I'm like, I wish I'd bought the darn thing.
If you remember 2003, we had a lot of snow, and I bought an SUV, and no snow after that. No snow after that.
I have become convinced that there's certain things I needed to do, and that's why, after all these years, I've owned a home, or
Mhm.
been living in single family housing for 36 years, and only a couple months ago did I buy a jet blower, snow, a leaf blower, and I'm
Mhm.
like, that thing has changed my life. Except that buying the battery powered version,
Mhm.
it's a pretty powerful thing, but that battery is so heavy. I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad the battery doesn't last super long, because it is. I'm like, I get tired of carrying that thing around after a while.
By the way, if the snow is a dry snow, you can use that leaf blower to blow the snow off.
That's true if you get a little bit of a dusting, right? Yeah,
No, no, not
yeah,
even dusting. You know, like when we get that super, you don't get that really dry snow that doesn't
yeah,
pack well. If
yeah.
you get it right then, you can just blow it off. That's when the pavement is still dry underneath that. We get that kind of snow where it's like really cold. You could use it to blow it off. You could have 6 inches or 8 inches of snow. You can still blow it off with a leaf blower.
I like that idea. I hadn't thought about that, but that's good. I like that
Uh,
advice.
I've done that and it's worked.
Yeah, so it can snow as much like that as you want, then I can go out there and take care of
Mhm.
it. That's
It's
fine.
just that wet and juicy snow, so to speak, that just
Well, that
sits.
yeah, and it's heavy.
Yeah. That's
It's
the one I remember it brought years ago. I think it was my junior year during exams week in high school. We had like two back-to-back snows in 1988. It was right after it was like sometime in late January, early February. We had two back-to-back snows, and we had the snow. We had a snow that canceled school on Monday and Tuesday. We had another snowstorm that closed schools Wednesday, Thursday. Then they opened schools 2 hours late on Friday, and that snow was so. It was one of those that it basically they had a greenhouse at the high school, and it actually broke two of the panes of glass of the greenhouse. That's how heavy the snow was. Why it didn't break all of them, I don't know. It just broke two, you know. And it's one, it was a fun time. That was the year it was so snowy that people were getting into fights when they'd clear parking spots for their cars in front of their house or whatever, and somebody else would come park in there. I mean, I saw that happen where people were parking in front of other people's driveways and stuff like that.
Yeah, when in those cities where they get heavy snows, people put out lawn chairs and stuff like
Yep.
that,
Hmm.
which in a lot of cities is actually not legal, but
Yeah.
until the neighbors fight about it, people will do it.
And I remember '96 we had the big snowstorm also. I remember Patty Lasky telling me your dad called her to go to the office for something because she lived up the street.
Yeah, yeah, that would. Yeah, I think I kind of remember that. It's like, yeah, you're only 2 blocks away. Go, yeah.
You can walk.
That was very typical of my father.
And Patty Lasky was it? She must have been like what, in her 70s then, or
I don't know.
I know she's still with us. I know she's still around. Patty Lasky.
As far as I know, yeah, because Dave Almasi visits her from time to time in Florida.
Where is
So
she in Florida?
she was in the Orlando area.
Really? I should talk to Dave and find out where she is. Look her up next time in a couple weeks when I'm down there again.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the sun goes down so damn early now. You can't do the show from the beach because it gets dark.
Well, I kind of wonder how old Patty is, because, my father.
Was she like you? She was like your dad's age, right? Because Victor
I
Lasky.
think she was pretty darn close. And look, my father would have been 99 this year.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. But my final thoughts. We've been kind of got a little sidetracked.
yeah, well,
My final thoughts is watch our award show on Tuesday. If you don't have the link, message. We have the link on the Dr. Politics page for the awards votes. So go ahead and vote. There's a lot of interesting category, a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun next Wednesday night. And everyone, Merry Christmas, and we'll see everyone next Wednesday, and then after that, probably the New Year.
all right.
Bye
Sounds
bye,
good.
everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a great one.